Okay, finally, let's come to the question 6, which is about the monopsony, the end of our chapter. The employment of teaching assistants by major universities can be characterized as a monopsony. As we said in our lecture, the monopsony means that one buyer can be one individual in the market or one firm in the market. Here in this question, there are lots of teaching assistants in the market, in the employment market, but there is only one university that can employ this teaching assistant. So that university is just characterized as a monopsony. The only university that can employ these teaching assistants, so he can work as a monopsony in that case. And suppose that the demand for teaching assistants, this is question 6, demand for teaching assistants is wage equal to 30,000 minus 125 N, where W is the wage as an annual salary and N is the number of teaching assistants hired. Here we don't use P and Q because this is about the labor market, not a market good or service. It's a kind of labor market. That's why for price we are using wage, and for quantity we are using N. It's the number of the teaching assistants hired, employed. And the supply of teaching assistants is given by W equal to 1000 plus 75 N. This is teaching assistant demand function. Whose demand is this? The university's demand function, actually, negatively sloped with the number of teaching assistant and wage that is paid to the teaching assistants. And this is the supply function of teaching assistants supply. The question A asks, if the university takes advantage of its monopsonist position, how many teaching assistants will it hire? What wage will it pay? We will start with to remember the monopsonist equilibrium firstly. Please remember. Here normally we write quantity, but for quantity, in order to quantity, we will use number employment level actually, but the number of teaching assistants hired in order to Q. And normally to the vertical axis we put P, but not P. The W wage rate will be written to the will be represented in the vertical axis. The demand function is something like that. That is the demand function, which can be also called as marginal value function of the university. And we have that kind of supply function. It will start from the 1000, something like that. And this supply function is also the average expenditure of the university. Please remember, we defined 3 types of expenditure concepts for the monopsony. The total expenditure, which is P times Q. For this example, we can rewrite it wage times N. Total expenditure of the university, how many teaching assistants are employed, and what's the wage rate. So that is the total expenditure of the university for the teaching assistants. Then average expenditure is the teaching total expenditure over Q. For this case, for this example, it will be W times N, total expenditure, over N. We use N for Q, so W, the wage rate, is just equal to the average expenditure, and the wage rate is determined on price is determined on the supply function. Just dual of the monopoly case. In the monopoly, we said that price is determined on the market demand. for monopsony, the price will be determined on the supply function. So the average expenditure function just equal to average expenditure is just equal to W, and it is the supply function for teaching assistants for this case. And also we have a marginal expenditure function, which is the first derivative of the total expenditure function for Q normally. For this example, we will derive it for N. We will derive the total expenditure function for N for the labor market, teaching assistant market in our example. So we will here put a marginal expenditure. We need to know the marginal expenditure function at first. Okay, let's start with the total expenditure function, W times N. The total expenditure function, it must be the function of Q, actually, just like the total revenue function. For our example, it must be the function of N. Here we have actually the inverse demand function, which is written as price equal to wage equal to. So we don't have to find the inverse demand or inverse supply also. We will use supply here. And this is quantity supply. The total expenditure function is 1000 plus 75N times N. Yani her bir teaching asistana kaç lira ödeyeceğine arz üzerinde karar verecek. 1000 artı 75 ne? Bunu gösteriyor. Çarpı kaç tane asistan çalıştıracak. Bu üniversitenin asistana yapacağı toplam harcamayı gösteren fonksiyon. Dolayısıyla total expenditure function is 1000N plus 75N square. That is the total expenditure function. And the marginal expenditure function for our case is the first derivative of the total expenditure function for N. And if you derive the function, you will get 1000 plus 150N. So, again, it will start from the 1000. And the slope of the marginal expenditure is just 2 times of the supply function or average expenditure function, just like the relationship between demand and marginal revenue. The slope of the marginal revenue is just 2 times of the slope of demand. Just the same is valid for here. The slope of the marginal expenditure is just 2 times of the slope of the supply. It will start from the same point, something like that, marginal expenditure. Now, what is the profit maximizing level of employment for the university? The rule is that the marginal equalization, the marginal value must equal to marginal expenditure. Just like in goods market in monopoly case, we said that marginal revenue must be equal to marginal cost. Just like that, the marginal expenditure must be equal to marginal value. So that is the profit maximizing level of employment for the university. So it becomes valid at point E. So we will equalize the demand function, which is 30,000 minus 125N, to the marginal expenditure function, 1000 plus 150N. And at the end, you can find that the profit maximizing level of employment for the university is 105.5 approximately, of course. And when you insert that value into the demand or marginal expenditure, you can put it on the demand. The profit maximizing wage rate will be, put it in your place in demand function, 30,000 minus 125 times 105.5, you will get the profit maximizing wage for the university is 8,912.5. These are, of course, again, approximate values. Now, what we found that this university will employ 105.5 teaching assistants, and tabii 0.5 teaching assistant ne anlama geliyor orası biraz anlamsız ama soruyu böyle dizayn etmişler. Her birine de kaç lira ödeyecek diyecek olursak, pardon bunu ben yanlış yerde yerine yazdım arkadaşlar. Tabii ki nerede bunu yerine yazmamız gerekiyor? Ars fonksiyonunda yerine yazmamız gerekiyor. Çünkü çok pardon. Bulduğumuz sonuç zaten oradan çıkan sonuç da bunu yanlış yazdık. Yapmamız gereken şey nedir? Marjinalleri eşitleyip denge noktasını bulacağız. Ondan sonrasında da bunu ars fonksiyonunda yerine koyacağız ve fiyatı bulacağız. Dolayısıyla da wage rate burada bulunacak. Şu bulduğumuz 8.912,5 olan wage aslında bunun ars fonksiyonunda yerine koyulmuş hali. Yani nasıl olacak söyleyelim. W star, we will insert that number into the supply function because the price is determined on the supply function. In monopoly, it's determined on the demand. In monopsony, it's determined on the supply. So we will put these employment number into the supply function, that one. 1000 plus 75 times n. Yes. Bunu yerine bunu hesapladığınız zaman bu sonucu buluyorsunuz. Okay. That was the question A. It's asked if the university takes the advantage of its monopsonist position. How many teaching assistants will it hire? 105.5 teaching assistants will be hired by the university. And what wage will it pay? The wage will be determined on the supply function, and approximately $9,000 will be paid to the teaching assistants annually. Yıllık ücret düzeyinden bahsediyoruz. Aylık değil. Okay. At question B, it is asked if instead the university behave as a competitive employer or buyer, how many teaching assistants will it hire and what wage will it pay? And what is the social cost to society of the monopsonist behavior of the university? If this university behave as a competitive employer, competitive buyer normally, but not buyer, university is not a buyer of the teaching assistants, let's say competitive employer. In that case, the university for competitive, let's say competitive employer, the university has to use the rule price equal to the marginal value. Price equal to marginal cost, just like price equal to marginal value. So it will be equal them. Here we do not use price. Wage equal to marginal value for this example. So the wage or the price is determined on the supply function, and the marginal value is the demand function. So point F will show us the competitive result. So for point F, we need to equalize demand to supply. So for competitive employer, we will equalize demand to supply. So 30,000 minus 125n equal to 1,000 plus 75n. From here, you can find the profit maximizing, not profit maximizing, but competitive, let's say N2 star. The competitive level of employment is 145, and the wage, now you can put it into the demand or supply, not matter because it's on the supply and demand also. The wage will be 1,000 plus 75 times 145 the wage rate, the competitive wage rate for the teaching assistants, 11,875. Now, please try to see that just like the monopolist is just restricting the amount of output to put higher price, it's also valid for the monopsonist. It's just restricting the employment level. He is not employing 145 teaching assistants, but only 105 teaching assistants. He's restricting the employment level, and he is doing this to be able to put a lower price, because for competitive price, competitive wage for the teaching assistants is around $12,000. 11,875. This is competitive price and competitive output, or competitive employment and wage. The university, the monopsonist university, is just restricting the number of teaching assistants to pay them a lower wage. Competitive wage is just higher than the monopsonist wage. Please try to see that. Şimdi bunu bir kere de Türkçe söyleyelim. Nasıl ki monopolcu firma talep eğrisi üzerinde, negatif eğimli talep eğrisi üzerinde fiyat belirlediği için yüksek fiyat koyabilmek amacıyla nasıl ki üretimini kısıyorsa, yüksek fiyat koyabilmek için monopolcu nasıl ki üretimini kısıyorsa, benzer bir durum monopson için de geçerli. Monopson da üretimini değil ama burada işe aldığı teaching assistant'ı kısıyor ki onlara düşük ücret ödeyebilsin. Ve bu davranış tıpkı monopolde olduğu gibi bir deadweight loss'a neden oluyor. The difference between the competitive output and the monopsonist output, the area between these two is just showing us the deadweight loss of this behavior. Şöyle yapalım. The blue shaded area, that area is the deadweight loss of being monopsonist behavior of the firm. How can we find this area? We need to find that point firstly just by putting these 105.5 to the demand function or marginal expenditure function. You can find that this point is 16,812.5. Nasıl bulduk bunu? Bu 105.5'u marginal expenditure'da ya da demand function'da, şurada yerine yazarsanız bulabileceğiniz değer. Dolayısıyla bu üçgenin alanını bulmak için o noktaya ihtiyacımız var. So the deadweight loss area is base here 16.812.5 eksi 8.912.5. This is base times height. This is height, which is 145 minus 105.5 over 2. The deadweight loss is this. This parenthesis times this parenthesis over 2. So the deadweight loss of the monopsonist behavior is the 1,560.25. That is the deadweight loss of the monopsonist behavior. Monopolle aynı mantıkta çalışıyoruz. Yine nasıl ki şöyle diyelim, aslına bakarsanız rekabetçi ortamdan uzaklaşmak deadweight loss yaratıyor kesinlikle. Monopolün yarattığı gibi monopsonun da yaratıyor. Diğer firma türleri için, tam rekabet dışındaki tüm diğer firma türleri için de, yani fiyatını marjinal maliyetine eşit belirlemeyen tüm firma türleri için de bu durum aslında geçerli diyebiliriz. Bu deadweight loss da hep actual output'la competitive output arasındaki kalan alan olarak tanımlanıyor. Burada da taramış olduğumuz alan deadweight loss'u monopsonist üniversitenin monopson gücünü kullanmasından dolayı yarattığı social cost'u gösteriyor. Tabi sorumuzda dead weight loss dememiş ama social cost'u gördüğünüz zaman social cost of the monopsony diyebilirsiniz buna. Okay, that was the end of the problem session. Thanks for your attendance.